Hi and good morning and welcome to Mama Power. I am Laura Topper and we are here on New Thought Media Network coming at you through this beautiful broadcasting ministry, sharing so many insights today. I'm just so excited to be here with Vicky Jeter, and I'm just really waiting to hear what Vicky has to say. Vicky is a friend and co-student with me in ministerial education with Florida campus, CSL campus. And Vicky, you are just, what you're doing is so rich. You know, you're a licensed spiritual practitioner, and you are based at Louisville, CSL in America. And I know that the work that you do in pre and perinatal in that arena for parents is just so powerful. And I hope that we're going to touch on that today, because with this show, you know, we really want to inspire people to live their best lives, and women as well to really be inspired to know that they can shine their light. And I know that you have so much to share. We're going to talk about synchronicity and SyncroDestiny, which that's the first time I've heard of this. And so Vicky, welcome. Welcome to Mama Power. So great to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Laura. So much fun. This is part B for us, because I was here on one of your shows before talking about the power of prayer.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yes. And so I have been anticipating this conversation. Very happy.
Yes, and so have I. And we didn't really know what it would be, what the conversation would be. And yet about a month ago, a class that we were in, this topic came up, or you brought this topic up. Synchronicity and SyncroDestiny. I'm like, come on, Vicky, share. How do we get from one to the other, from A to B? SyncroDestiny, I love it.
So before I begin getting into the colorful part of this, I should give credit. That term comes from Deepak Chopra, and his organization has a whole class on SyncroDestiny. So none of this is mine. I just practice it and I pass it along and so forth where I can. And this is dovetailing with Mama Power, because I'm also a pre and perinatal educator, as you had suggested. And I'm going to give some examples of how working with synchronicity into SyncroDestiny played into my becoming a pre and perinatal educator. But before I do that, probably be very helpful. Some people may be aware with the term prenatal and perinatal, and some people may not be as familiar. So
yes, please define here.
Yeah. So prenatal is all things prior to the delivery of a baby. So prenatal can address preconception, like before the baby's even conceived, through conception, gestation, and then actual birth. Now, prenatal is right up to birth. Perinatal starts at birth. So the actual birth process is perinatal. And then once the baby's born, the perinatal period addresses all the new experiences that a baby has. Learning about gravity. You know, when a baby's in the womb, they're floating. And so they don't know about gravity, and they come out and they have that experience of gravity for the first time. Can be kind of interesting. So all those new experiences that a baby has for the first time is considered in the perinatal period. And so what's true is we teach about the actual birthing process and so forth, depending on what a woman or a family that we're supporting needs. But it's really the broader experience of the whole journey, coming from spirit into being, having a human experience. So that's what I do as a pre and perinatal educator. And synchronicity actually, as a principle itself, comes more directly out of being a science of mind practitioner or a spiritual practitioner. I don't mean to say synchronicity is happening everywhere. So it's not exclusive to Centers for Spiritual Living at all, or even Deepak Chopra's work. Deepak Chopra took a spiritual principle and was able to figure out how to work with it in such a way that he said, oh my goodness, you know, everybody needs to know about this. And so coming into Mama Power, when you can discover that synchronicities are happening around you all the time and lean into that and work with it so that it expands and gets stronger for you. I mean, what a way to take some of the stress off of parenting. What a way to touch into intuition. And you'll see how this kind of works as we talk about it a little bit more.
Wow.
Okay?
It sounds
So
amazing. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the time lag on the thing here. It just really sounds really exciting, because we are in an atmosphere of synchronicity all of the time, and yet we rush around, don't we? I mean, many of us rush around, ignoring the signs, ignoring what's there already, and thinking in our human mind that we've got it all worked out. So this synchronicity is really happening on a subtle level, would you say?
Yes. And though, when you start to work with it consciously, it becomes much less subtle and much more like really demonstrative and like, wow. And that's when it gets to like SyncroDestiny part. So let me just give a generic example without getting into the story that I want to share, so you kind of know. So the term synchronicity is more well known today than it once was. A synchronous experience that someone has happen that they might notice, but they don't lend anything to it. They might say, oh, what an odd coincidence. Okay?
Yes.
So if you ask yourself, where does SyncroDestiny start? SyncroDestiny generally starts with an odd coincidence. Okay? So the first thing is, probably most people engaging your audience, unless you're for the first time, might have heard the saying, there are no coincidences. Okay? And so then you wonder, well, you know, is that really true or what? Okay, well, it depends on what we do with them. Okay? If an odd coincidence occurs and someone says, well, wasn't that odd, but doesn't take it any further, then that's as far as it's going to go. Okay? Now, synchronicities happen and they have that odd feeling because they are infused with divine intelligence. Synchronicity is a way for the essence of creation to communicate with us here. Okay? And so it's like a volley. So an odd coincidence happens, and then it's ours to pick it up and do something with it. And if you just say it's a coincidence and don't take it any further, it doesn't go any further. It's like you didn't quite pick up the phone. Okay. If, however, go ahead.
And so I really don't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to kind of wrap that little piece up there, because I know you're going to move on, and because this is amazing. Are you saying then, Vicky, it's rather like thought has a journey, doesn't it? And, you know, we can see the end of the thought manifesting into the material, it materializing itself.
Yes.
And often there are synchronicities that will happen along the way that we just take for granted without realizing that they are a part of the thought process that we've had.
Yes. Part of the deal. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Exactly. And so in one way to think of it, it's something like a feedback loop. Like we engage a synchronicity, and then if we pick that up and make a meaning of it and acknowledge it, then that sends another thought about it back out, and then more comes back and more, and that's part of how it grows from a synchronicity into this larger thing that we call SyncroDestiny, is because with each volley, more and more meaning gets made, etc. And the more that happens, the more energy it has. So So you're thinking like, the way to do that. So how am I supposed to make a great big deal about an interesting but non-consequential coincidence? Okay. It's not that the original coincidence is any more life-changing than anything else, but the thing to do is to say, wow, I see you, show me more. Rather than saying, I'm brushing you aside, show me more. Okay. And so that's what then the divine from which the original coincidence comes says, oh, okay, we're having a conversation here. Let me show you more. Okay.
Okay. So we're being that invitation for more,
yes.
rather than just saying, oh wow, that's amazing, it was a coincidence, move on. We're actually
moving
acknowledging. Yeah.
And it's not that you're making it happen, you're just staying open to what's next as an open receptor, because the next piece of it comes from the mystery. It comes from that which is larger that we don't yet particularly know. Okay. So I'll just say one more thing before I give this example. When you are working with a string of synchronicity, when you've started with a coincidence and then you're open to it building, okay, as the next thing happens that feeds into that synchronicity, it already gets pretty exciting. Well, and one of the ways to increase that is to share it. So for example, you and I are having this conversation today, and even though there's not a particular synchronicity that's happened between you and I right now, I'm going to tell some stories about some synchronicities that have happened for me. As I'm passing those on to you, then you start looking and saying, I remember she spoke about this, and there that is. Oh my gosh. So then you say, oh, I see you, show me more. And the more people are aware of a synchronous thing that's going on, and you pass it on when you share it, then all of those people are doing meaning making. All of those people are adding to the collective field, the collective story. And that's part of how the energy of it grows. Okay.
Wow.
So with that in mind, I'm going to share this story of how synchronicity played into my becoming a pre and perinatal educator.
Yes.
Okay. And it also plays into, I was born with spastic cerebral palsy, which has a great lot to do with how I became an educator, because I was seeking for physical transformation of my disability. I walk with canes or crutches as an adult, and that's all good. Not for anybody to worry about a thing. It's all quite magical by this time. But anyway, it does all feed into it. I thought, because that's my birth story. So I was born with a challenge, and because I'm seeking, then I have that open door just in general to that. Well, so before I got into being a pre and perinatal educator, I found science of mind and I became a practitioner. And a practitioner is the level of the work that Laura and I do. It's like the next step before you become a minister in Centers for Spiritual Living. And so I was already a practitioner and seeking for my healing work. And I met a woman who was a therapeutic yoga teacher. And that was for my physical good, right? And she was wonderful, and she could get me into these positions I could never get my own body into, but she would use foam support things, and she would get me into these yoga positions. And so I was really into some physical transformation doing yoga with her. And in the process, I found out.
That must have been amazing.
Yes. It was amazing. I would love to find a therapeutic yoga teacher again. I'm not working with her now because I live in a whole different state. Yeah. But as it happened, she was a trainee, a direct trainee of Deepak Chopra. Now, at this time, I had no clue about SyncroDestiny, which he coined and he wrote about. I didn't know about it. But she's one of his instructors. And here she is working with me individually, two different talents she had. And so, being a spiritual seeker as I am, I'm like, what do you mean SyncroDestiny? And she gave me there's a book, but there's also a set of CDs that it's not him reading the book. He teaches SyncroDestiny in these CDs. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And she let me borrow them. Of all things, she let me borrow them. And I mean, and he's telling you all about notice coincidences, talk to them like they're people, encourage them, tell them, show me more. And when you do that, you want to aim as high as possible with regard to the quality you put behind it. Like we talk about in prayer, you have the idea and then you have the feeling you put behind it. So when you're working with a coincidence to build into synchronicity and SyncroDestiny, first of all, coincidences are synchronicities. And then, but working with them, when you make a meaning of them, aim high, because that's like the step you take in the dance, right? And so here I am, and I'm like absorbing these CDs that I got from this woman who could have known. And the thing about it is, about the 5th time I went through those CDs, because I started working the process right away. I could feel it. And because of my training as a practitioner, I knew this was alignment. And so I started working with it right away. About the 5th time through listening to these 12 CDs, I had a dream. And it was one of those dreams that was not just a dream. And in the dream, I was in like a convention space with lots of people. And there wasn't anything around that said what that convention was for. But I was in this midst of a bunch of people, and I'm standing there, and you can kind of hardly move because you're kind of waiting to go in. And Deepak Chopra came up on my right side, slipped his hand into mine. My hand was down to my side. He slipped his hand into mine, and he said, "Be silent and be still. Something wonderful is about to happen." And then I woke up. And I still get chills telling that story today. I absolutely knew that listening to those CDs over and over and over again had opened a field of consciousness. And I could not tell you what it was, but I knew something wonderful was getting ready to happen. And lo and behold, what happened like 6 weeks later is I got a call from my lifelong friend that grew up up the street from me, known me all my life. And she calls me up and she's so excited. She goes, "How would you like to go to a 5-day rebirthing with me?" Because we had said all of our lives, if we could investigate our births, because she also was born premature, we said if we could investigate our births, we would do it. And here it was. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I didn't ask who the facilitator was. I just knew that this was guided by God.
Yeah.
And that was in March of 2000. And the workshop was in November. Now, the interesting thing, that's almost exactly 9 months. And I'm going to do birth healing, right? So I'm like, isn't that interesting? It's exactly gestation time. And I still don't even know about pre and perinatal psychology, but I'm just kind of going with it, right? And so I prayed every day. And I did know, I mean, I could feel it, that this thing was what the Deepak Chopra dream was about. Right. I knew that that's what it was. And I got there, and it was 5 days immersed in looking at your birth story, looking at how triggers that we've gone through in life are related back to things that happened during birth. And the thing is, this is why I would like for people to understand. When we talk about, like I'm saying, I was born with a disability, it's not about just the difficult things that happen in birth, okay? Birth is like your arrival onto this planet. We have come from essence into form, and it's just like, wow, for every baby, even if it is an ecstatic experience, it's like, wow, I'm coming into a whole new world. I have no idea what's out here or what it's going to be. So that experience is valuable to work with no matter what you know about it or how it might have impacted your further life. It's extremely valuable to know about, and how it does, no matter what it was, it creates a foundation for our belief systems. And that's what I came to. And that's how I merged, being both a practitioner minister type and a pre and perinatal educator, because I realized on the third day of that workshop, I was like, oh my gosh, absolutely. This is what I've been looking for to transform my experience. But this applies to everyone. Everyone on the planet gets born. And to realize that what we go through in the experience of coming in here lays the actual energetic foundation for what we're going to believe about ourselves, what we're going to believe about life. Mm-hmm. You know, was our first experience, you know, were we received gently? Did it feel safe enough? All of those kinds of things are energetically impressions that stay with us. It's a first impression, you know, and then it kind of builds from there. And so now what I want to encourage.
Wow. I'm just loving this whole conversation. I could sit here with you all day talking about this. It's so interesting because you've got two threads of things going on here. You know, there's the synchronicity, SyncroDestiny, and your journey as a pre and perinatal teacher or educator, and how you and how that synchronicity brought you into this, so that you're helping and serving so many women and parents really to bring their children in consciously.
Yes, with that conscious connection.
Yes.
So for parents and families that might be listening, almost as an aside from the SyncroDestiny piece, absolutely, parenthood begins from the first instant that the baby's in existence. And you may or may not know that in advance, but as soon as you do know, your relationship to your baby starts right then. And there is communication on many, many levels. And so people wonder, well, you know, how can it be that the baby can really be taking on communication before the brain is developed? But when we realize that we are beings that were somewhere before we got here, and the fullness of that beingness is within whatever form the physiology is taking. And, you know, day by day, that physiology grows. And so there's no lack of presence to that life.
Amazing. I love this. I mean, I'm going back to synchronicity and SyncroDestiny. So you then chose to become an educator in this, and that must have changed your life to be that presence, to be that person. It must be transformative for you, not only for your own knowing of what birthing really means and what conception really means, and preconception, because, you know, there's that piece as well, isn't there? But the way it's may have transformed your life because you are enabling others to transform their lives. And this is what Mama Power is all about, you know, stepping into our greatness and saying yes to those things that we feel, that we know are our truth. And yet we might not always be brave enough to take that step. And you've done that. You're doing that.
Yes. Well, and hopefully this will lend to women. When you start working with coincidence and synchronicity, life comes to know that, and it will bring you more. And it's a mechanism by which you can strengthen that mother's intuition really strongly, because intuition operates within the same field that synchronicity does. You know, when we say, wow, well, how often about our intuition has there been no extroverted way to validate it? We just know, right?
Yes.
So when a coincidence happens, well, how did that happen? Well, I don't know, but it did. And so it's kind of in the same field. And so when you start to notice that synchronicity does grow, then it's easier to trust your intuition, because it's like, doesn't matter if I can't see it. I know somehow it works. And then you just work with it more. You work with your intuition more. You work with synchronicity more. And it can really grow someone's basis for conviction and faith.
Oh, it's amazing. I would love for you to come back onto Mama Power, to talk through this process, this Deepak Chopra process. Maybe we could do something where you're actually guiding viewers through the process on the show. Would you like to do that, Vicky? Yeah.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I could come back and talk about any of these levels anytime.
Oh,
Absolutely
amazing.
love it. Can I offer just a couple of resources?
Please do. Yeah, we have a couple of minutes left. I just want to also say that for anybody that's viewing right now, I know that you love Vicky and you want to get in touch with her to find out more. And her email address is just flashing by here on the screen, vickybjeter@gmail.com. And of course, Vicky, you're on Facebook as well, aren't you? People can find you.
Now on Facebook, it's just Vicky Jeter. But yeah,
Vicky Jeter. Yeah.
Yes. So Deepak Chopra's book is simply called SyncroDestiny.
Hold that up. Fantastic. Yes. I'm going to check it out myself.
And then the other thing that would be good just to put out here, the program that I was trained under for pre and perinatal educator is through the Association for Pre and Perinatal Psychology and Health. And that's short. It's called APA for short. They are international. So the fact that you're over in Europe or anyone listening in the world can tap into the Association for Pre and Perinatal Psychology and Health. Their website is birthpsychology.com.
Okay.
So, yeah. And there's all kinds of resources there. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Vicky, thank you so much for coming on today and just raising the bar and bringing this to the light, because there are so many aspects of who we are as human beings, as spiritual beings. And I just find it so fascinating to delve into those more subtle aspects. And synchronicity, I know, is so interesting. And I want to learn more. So I'm looking forward to you coming back to creating another show with you on Mama Power.
Yes.
And to finding out more of your work and what you're doing in the world.
Thank you so much, Laura. It is my pleasure. I can't wait.
Amazing. Thank you, Vicky, for being here. And for viewers, for anyone that's watching right now, you're on New Thought Media Network. Whether you're watching this right now or at a future point, New Thought Media Network is a fantastic ministry and broadcasting platform that brings out so many wonderful, inspirational, empowering broadcasts for us all to lift up and transform our lives. And that's what this conversation is a part of. So if you love this network, then there is a link down below that you can be a part of this and leave your love offering, because we love a love offering, don't we? We always love a love offering.
Yes, it is what makes it possible. So I too just want to say thank you to listeners. It's a wonderful thing to pass this on. This is like passing on synchronicity. It grows.
There you go. Oh, thank you, Vicky, for being here.
Thank you, Laura.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. You're awesome.